Well, I'm late as usual, but I was running an errand and I just got back in that. You can tell I'm sweating. Maybe you can't tell I'm sweating because the light's so bright. That's natural light, by the way. That's coming in from a little space in the window about the between the curtain and the wall of about that much. That's how bright that sun is. South of the border. Big thing tonight, State of the Union. Uh, According to what I read, the numbers for Trump's economy, which is one of the things he's going to talk about, which is probably maybe his best thing, despite the good numbers or relatively good numbers he's getting, um, people hate him and hate the economy. Reason is that consumer isn't being affected by it. The manufacturers are doing well, everybody else is doing well, but the consumers are suffering greatly. And that's because they're the little people. And if you know anything about Trump and his minions, they don't like the little people. If you're a little person, you're an average guy working 9 to 5 or whatever it is that you're working, you're being screwed left and right by taxes, by everything else, by high prices, by everything. So that part of the economy sucks. And that's the part of the economy 99% of the people out there are going to be concerned about. Excuse me again. But that's what happens in this world of Trumpism, you know? It's not a good thing, Trumpism. It really isn't. Uh, but I don't watch the State of the Union. I don't care if it was Barack doing it. I just think for me, it's extremely boring. I like to see the slimmed down version of it. I mean, if you're forced to listen to it, then listen to it by somebody like Obama, who's actually knows how to speak and give a speech, is better than listening to Fats ramble on about he's so good, how great he is and everything like that. But that's Donnie. What are you gonna do? I don't. I really have a problem. I'm very biased when it comes to Trump. I don't like him. So what? Oh, that team. The hockey team in trouble. Okay. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the U.S. hockey team seems to be in trouble for not wanting to go to the White House, or be in attendance to the State of the Union. The women's team already turned it down. I think the men's team turned it down too. Nobody wants to have anything to do with this schmuck, And this is getting to be a serious problem because world leaders meet with him because they're pretty much forced into it. They don't want to see him on a personal level. They don't want to be around them. You know, I can understand that. I mean, he's three assassination. They're calling it three assassination attempts. Three attempts at trying to make trouble for him. Really, I think they caught one and they shot two. So young people in trouble because they're too stupid to not do that. You know, the odds of you surviving it, even if you accomplish it, if you're a young amateur, are extremely high. Uh, I would venture almost 1,000,000 to 1. Um, and the fact that you survive it is probably higher than that. You know, professionals is a different story, but professionals don't take on that kind of job because nobody can afford to pay them what they want. And then that's the last thing they're ever going to do. They're going to have to watch their back constantly after that because they won't stop until they find them. Unlike some other, things that people do, they're going to chase this guy. They're going to chase these people down till they're dead and buried. You know what I'm saying? So I figured out Trump's reason for tariffs, especially this one that he just 15% global tariff. I think he considers that tribute. being paid to him because he's such a great person, you know? I think in his mind, his sick, fucked up mind, that's what he thinks. And I got to tell you, if it ever turns out to be true, I'm going to be sick, really. To pay this clown anything, you know? You're getting ripped off anyhow. You think that money's going anywhere? Look, they just announced that the tariffs, the refunds from the tariffs, are going to the corporations. They're not going back to the individuals, and they're the ones that paid the tariff in reality because they're the ones that paid it by higher prices. So they're never going to see a dime of that money. And that's Trump will get a lot of that because he's involved with some of the corporations that raise the tariff money and everything like that. So he'll get a few, maybe a billion or two out of it. That fat fuck. God, I'm sorry. I just get carried away when I start talking about him. Uh, our hockey, I tell you, the hockey team is in some sort of trouble because they refused to go to the. They were invited to the State of the Union address tonight. And they made a phone call, said, "Nah, we're not making it," or something to that. Apparently, it must have been a little bit worse because there seems to be a little bit of an uproar about that, which is fine with me. I don't care. You want to stand next to a guy that smells like poop? That's okay with me too. But that's what there isn't enough Lysol in the world to mask the smell of that man. I'm telling you that right now. If there was, I'd be investing in Lysol. Trust me. And I'm sure Trump would be investing in it too, because he can make himself stink more, so they have to use more Lysol. You know what I'm saying? That's the way he is. He would do that on purpose because he's such a scumbag. The moon launch is in trouble again. I don't know exactly why, but this time they're saying that it's putting the whole mission in not just a delay type situation, but the crew that's on its way is in jeopardy of not being able to make that trip for some reason. I don't know what it is. Probably the fact that there's so many delays uh, that they just can't use all those people again. So I just, I think that's well, I don't know. If somebody told me there was some good, really good reason to go to the moon, I mean, there's reasons to go to Mars. It's a very, very long trip, though. But there's essentially a reason to go to Mars. But the moon, we've been there. We know it's dusty. It's nothing. It's got no real minerals. It's got no water. So if you stay there, whatever you want has to come from someplace else, which is usually we're primarily talking about. It's got to come from the Earth, which is just I don't know what you want to call it, but it's an expensive proposition, and it's you basically have to set up a commuter system to fly these people back and forth, and that's just expensive, and I don't see the profit margin there. Is it easier to do construction in space? Yeah, if you're going to build space stations and stuff like that, but we've got too many satellites up there to be able to put a big space station up there that's going to do anything other than have its radio transmissions interfered with by the amount of satellites that are what's his name, Butts and uh, Musk have up there. Oh, I'm getting a little wacky. Okay. Now here's an interesting thing, which I really didn't expect because I didn't know that they actually talk to each other. But Canada is expected to help out with Cuba, where the United States is basically killing people by starving them and everywhere. Uh, I forget was a Democratic or Republican president that got involved in that situation. Um, but nobody, I think, whatever it was, Trump didn't like it, so he's already said he went and backtracked all the stuff to zero. And I thought that they had a lot of support from China, but I guess they don't anymore. I don't know why. I guess there's nothing left in that island to take out. China's already sucked it dry. unless you want sugar cane. Maybe that's why Trump wants the Coca-Cola to use sugar cane instead of corn syrup, because he's planning on, taking over Cuba too. If he takes over Cuba, I guarantee he turns it into some sort of penal colony or something. That's the mentality he has. Uh, I don't know. I look back on my life right now, and I guess this is what I think about. So you understand how I get to be the way I be. I had planned on, I retired down here, and I was planning on, um, my wife and I, doing what we wanted to do, not having to worry about, anything until I died. I would be the one that got sick because I was the oldest by quite a few years. And it turns out that, it didn't work out that way. And I'm not physically able to do everything for her, but even what I am allowed to do or able to do, she doesn't want me to do. So that's just it's a conflict constantly, day in and day out, and I don't want that. You know, not the last few years I'm going to be on this planet, but I expected things to be uh, a lot better. But I should have realized that, I got that speech from my parents growing up, that things are going to be better for you than they were for us. Why? Because you can buy a automatic washer dryer, and you don't have to hang your clothes outside, and you don't have to hand wring them and stuff like that. That's your life is being easier. You don't have any more free time. Computers were supposed to give people free time. They don't. People are working twice as hard. Uh, as I got older, every year I had to work more to make the money, to make the rent and everything, because everything keeps going up. And it goes up at a higher rate than it did when I was young. So I don't really think things are better. You know, uh, is there better medical care? Yeah, but you got to be able to afford it. Medical insurance isn't. You'll find out as you get older. Medical insurance isn't the end all that it's supposed to be. There's more to. There's a lot of money you got to pay out too. Medicare, whatever it is, there's a lot of money you have to pay out. You have to have. If you want to retire, you have to have a good chunk of change. You know, and everybody says, "Oh, can you retire on $1 million? Could I retire on $1 million? Put it in a bond or something with a high yield? Yeah, I could, no problem at all, because it wouldn't be any the interest wouldn't be much more or less. Plus Social Security, yeah, that's a no brainer. I'd be living the high on the hog, because I'm not stupid enough to stay in America and pay. I wouldn't have stayed in America. I don't think if. I had the opportunity to go to someplace else that wasn't as that I could make a living at, you know, because I just think America's far too expensive for the average individual to truly enjoy life. I mean, you can have a house, you can have a nice house, a new car every 3 or 4 years, and all this stuff. But as you get older, those things are harder to maintain and harder to get. You have to work harder, and you can't maintain that level if you're. I don't care what you do. All right, to maintain a level of I'm going to say activity, business activity, work that you're doing at 21, to keep that going to your 65, that's very, very difficult, because 99% of the people don't love their job. Okay, they like their job, they don't love their job, and the more you cost the company, the more that you have to produce, or you're gone. That's just the way. And even then, you might be gone. There's no. People wanted to join the post office and I tried when I graduated high school. It just never worked out. There weren't any openings, so I went and did something else. But I did work at part time for a while, and I just could see the writing on the wall. Where there was a. I worked in a building that they eventually closed because there was no. Because first I was worried, The first thing they did that made me realize the post office wasn't going to work out real well is that you could accept contracts that were teletyped. Okay, now that you don't need mail, special delivery, or any of that stuff anymore. You could just get it there, type, send it out. And you have a copy, they have a copy, X and X the spot, and it's done. Once they did that, and once the computer came along, where you could get we don't get any mailed bills down here. They send them, but we still get them electronically. They send them because they banks and utilities pay special messengers to deliver them. That's not a regular mail service. All right, so these guys keep a job that way, part time or whatever it is. So uh, it's good for it helps the economy. America doesn't think that way. America eliminates jobs, doesn't try to maintain them, uh, doesn't worry about the old people. You know, uh, they don't worry about feeding the very, very young. You know, make babies, make babies. Where's the food coming from? How are we going to do this? No, don't worry about it. Just make babies. Make them Catholic or Christian, though. No Jewish babies. That's another thing I read about where there's somebody said it would be, he works for the UN or something. I don't remember where he was, what part of it or what the government he was. But it was important enough for everybody to quote him that he says he think it would be fine if Israel took over the whole Middle East. I think Saudi Arabia would give them a really good battle for that, and that. But by the time it was over, I don't think either country would be capable of governing anything. All right, listen up. It's 17 minutes into this video, and I'm going like, now what the fuck do I talk about? Let's call it a day, okay? You'll see the other video in a few minutes as soon as I can get it up, the video that is. All right, so we'll talk tomorrow. Have a good one. Subscribe if you find you know where to go. Subscribe. You'll get notices of when I'm on the air and everything. In the meantime, have a great day.